Welcome again, everyone. Today should be a relatively quick video. We're going to talk about parent-child relationships. Now, parent-child relationships are really useful let me get my sticky notes open here. Parent-child relationships are really useful for some of the animation techniques that we're going to be talking about coming up next week, probably the beginning of next week. So I want to make sure, I'm going to get rid of the 3D text sticky because we don't need to talk about 3D text today. So child-parent relationships basically allow us to establish objects that are connected. And they're objects that are connected without actually joining them. So we know that if I create a couple of cylinders here, and I'm going to go into edit mode, base of this cylinder, pull it up just a little bit, like that. And then I am going to copy. Okay, so we know that if we have two cylinders, let me get out of camera mode. We know that if we have two cylinders, and let's say I wanted to put these cylinders together. So I'm going to take this cylinder, and I'm going to move it right about here, right on top, pretty much. That looks good. And then I'm going to rotate it like this. And so what I'm doing here is I'm kind of making an arm sort of structure. And to make it look like there's a joint in the middle, I am going to actually add a sphere in here, like so. Up a little bit. I want to position this a little bit better. Okay. So we've got this cylinder here that's attached to a sphere and another cylinder. Now, if I wanted to, we know that I could shift-click all three of these guys and either use a Boolean modifier to union them together, or I could go to Tools and hit Join. The problem with that is that if I join all of these objects together, they'll only have one center of mass. Or if I try to manipulate them separately, they'll all move in relation to their previous centers of mass. And we want to make it so instead of having them all be one thing, I still want to move them independently, but I want these two objects to be children of the cylinder at the bottom. So if this cylinder moves, I want the whole structure to move. Or if this sphere moves, I want the top half of the structure to move. So we're going to create two relationships here. A child-parent relationship means that whenever a parent moves, so if this guy were the parent, whenever the parent moves, the child also moves. So we're going to create two parent-child relationships where we make this cylinder a child of the sphere, and then we're going to make the sphere a child of the cylinder. So let's talk about how we create a parent-child relationship. Now, the really important thing is that we have to select the parent and the child, but the child object must be selected first. So I select the child object, and then I shift-click the parent object. So if I want the cylinder to be a child of the sphere, I'm going to click the cylinder, and then I'm going to shift and right-click the sphere, and now I'm going to learn about a new shortcut. The shortcut for creating a child-parent relationship is Control P. This creates a parent-child. Okay, so Control P, and then I'm trying to set these objects to be child and parent of one another, so I'm going to select Object, and now let's see if it worked. So now if I select only the sphere is a parent of the cylinder. So the sphere should move the cylinder whenever it moves. We can see that it does. So now the sphere is in effect attached to the cylinder, but the cylinder, if it wants to, can still move freely. So if I ever had to change the location or the rotation of the cylinder, I could. For example, the cylinder kind of lean down a little bit if I wanted it to be more in the joint, or if I wanted to straighten it out so the whole thing was one straight arm, I could move the cylinder on top. So I'm still able to freely move children. Now, let's say I made a mistake. Let's say I didn't actually want the sphere to be the child of the parent, or of this parent of the cylinder, or let's say I did my relationship backwards. If I want to remove a parent-child relationship, I just do the clicking again. So I click my cylinder first, and then I shift-click my sphere, and I do Alt-P and select Clear Parent. And notice that any movement I did gets reset, so it completely clears that relationship. So Alt plus P clears a parent relationship. So those two objects are no longer related. I'm going to go ahead and do Control P to set them as a parent object again. So now they're all good. And now we're not quite done, because if this bottom cylinder moves, we want the entire thing to move. So let's set up a parent-child relationship between the sphere and the cylinder, where the sphere is a child of the cylinder. Let's test that out. Okay, so I'm going to click the sphere because I clicked my child first. Shift-click the cylinder, do Control-P, and select Object. And now, if I move my cylinder around, everything moves, because the cylinder is a parent of the sphere, and the sphere is a parent of the other cylinder. So I could rotate it this way, and then I could click my cylinder and rotate like this if I wanted to, then stand it back up again. Whatever I want to do, but now anytime I move the bottom cylinder, the top two pieces will move, and anytime I move the sphere, the top cylinder will move. So I've created this relationship, but still kept the objects separate. The objects are still able to be manipulated on their own, they just affect the objects around them. What you guys are going to be doing in class is you're going to be creating a similar arm, but we're going to create an arm with a few more relationships. So we're going to add some stuff at the top of our arm to allow it to manipulate things in our scene. And we're going to use parent-child relationships to hook up our entire arm and claw. That's what we will work on in class. Thanks for watching.